12 young men set out to conquer North America's tallest mountain. Their goal was Denali Summit, 20,310 feet of ice, rock, and sky. But what they didn't know was that the deadliest storm in the mountain's history was already coming for them. Only 5 of the young men came back alive. 3 were found dead on the mountain, and 4 of them were never even found again. Rising 6,190 meters above sea level, Denali, once known as Mount McKinley, dominates the Alaskan skyline with an austere, breathtaking majesty. Often shrouded in mist and lashed by violent storms, Denali is not just a mountain, it is a force of nature. For mountaineers, it's both a dream and a trial, an arena where courage is tested against cold, altitude, and fate itself. In the summer of 1967, this remote and formidable peak became the stage for one of the most tragic mountaineering disasters in American history. 12 young men set out with hope and ambition, determined to conquer the mountain, ready to chase their dream. Only 5 returned alive. At the heart of this fateful journey was Joe Wilcox, a 24-year-old graduate student from Brigham Young University. Wilcox was no stranger to adventure. He had already led expeditions in the western United States, but Denali was a different one. Driven by a desire to prove himself, and perhaps to lead one of the youngest teams to summit the mountain, he began assembling his team through advertisements and word of mouth. Most of his chosen climbers were in their 20s, students and amateur mountaineers from various parts of the country. They had grit and enthusiasm, but their experience in high-altitude glaciated terrain was really limited. Concerned about the team's lack of experience, the National Park Service stepped in, requiring them to merge with another climbing group, a seasoned foursome from Colorado, led by Howard Snyder, an experienced mountaineer with a reputation for precision and caution. It seemed like a more safer option to let the groups merge for their climb to the top. Reluctantly, the 2 groups combined. Though both teams had different philosophies and leadership styles, they now shared one goal: to reach the summit of Denali via the Muldrow Glacier route, a longer, less traveled path compared to the more popular West Buttress route. On June 22, 1967, the 12-man team began their journey to the top of Denali. The Muldrow Glacier route was scenic but unforgiving, remote, icy, and exposed. Hauling sleds laden with gear and rations, they trudged through deep snowfields and over crevassed ice, navigating the vast wilderness of the beautiful Denali National Park. By early July, the team had developed a rhythm together. Despite minor disagreements and physical strain, morale remained high, and they shared the same goal. The landscape around them, glittering ice falls, windswept ridges, and the ever-present hum of danger, only fueled their sense of purpose. On July 13th, after weeks of climbing, the team established their high camp at 15,000 feet, a precarious spot on the upper Harper Glacier. The air was thin, the cold biting, but the summit was closer than ever, less than 6,000 feet above the group. On July 15th, 5 members, Joe Wilcox, Howard Snyder, Jerry Lewis, John Russell, and Dennis Luchterhand, made their bid for the summit. The weather that day was beautiful and perfect for the climb, clear blue skies. The group did it. They reached the top, standing triumphantly on North America's roof, snapping photos and taking in the moment. It was a hard-won moment of glory. The group returned to high camp exhausted but fulfilled. That night, the remaining 8 climbers made plans for their own summit attempt. They wanted to do what the small group had done, even more excited. The mountain, however, had its own plans with them. On July 17th, as the second summit team prepared to ascend, the weather turned. What began as a light wind rapidly escalated into a full-blown storm. A superstorm, one of the most violent ever recorded on Denali, descended with terrifying speed and fury. Winds roared at over 150 miles per hour. Temperatures plummeted far below zero. Snow and ice blasted the mountain like a sandblaster. The 8 climbers at high camp were effectively trapped, pinned by nature with no escape route and no way to call for help. Their tents were fragile shelters in a world gone mad. They couldn't do anything but wait in fear. Below them, the 5 climbers who had already summited were also caught in the storm, but way lower at the 15,000-foot level. They crowded into a single tent, conserving body heat, rationing food, and waiting. The only thing more dangerous than staying put was attempting to move. Days passed by. The storm showed no mercy and kept on coming. There was no radio contact from the 8 climbers trapped above. Each day that passed decreased the chances of survival. As news reached the outside world, families and park officials got real scared and knew what was coming for them. Still, the weather kept aircrafts grounded and rescuers waiting for the storm to lay down to start a rescue mission. Finally, on July 23rd, a break in the storm allowed the 5 surviving climbers to begin their descent. Weak and frostbitten, they navigated their way down with assistance from the Mountaineering Club of Alaska, whose members had also been caught in the storm lower on the mountain. As soon as conditions allowed it, search teams were dispatched. Helicopters buzzed the mountain, and rescuers climbed through icy terrain, hoping for a miracle. But Denali gave them nothing. On July 28th, searchers reached what remained of the high camp. There, they found a collapsed tent and the body of one of the climbers, frozen and unidentifiable. The next day, 2 more bodies were discovered near Archdeacon's Tower, eerily sitting upright, as if braced against the wind that had taken their lives in the storm on the mountain. The last 4 climbers were never found again. No bodies were ever discovered. Whether they perished in the storm, fell into crevasses, or were buried in avalanches, no one truly knows what happened to them and where their bodies rest. The mountain kept their secrets. The disaster shocked the mountaineering community and the American public after the news was spread. It prompted a reevaluation of climbing safety protocols, especially on Denali. The National Park Service introduced new regulations, including stricter experience requirements to ascend, route planning oversight, and mandatory equipment checks. The loss of 7 young men was a somber reminder that no amount of ambition can overcome the forces of nature unprepared. Joe Wilcox, forever marked by the tragedy, went on to document the experience in his book, White Winds: America's Most Tragic Climb. Decades later, journalist Andy Hall, son of a park superintendent at the time, would investigate the disaster in haunting detail in Denali's Howl. These books, and the memory of the fallen climbers, preserve the story of 1967, a sad and tragic story etched in snow and stone. To this day, Denali remains a coveted prize for mountaineers around the world. Thousands come to North America's Denali to test themselves against its frozen cliffs and brutal winds. Some succeed, others decide to turn back. A few are lost, but none climb Denali without hearing the echoes of 1967, without sensing in the thin air and shifting snow the legacy of those who came before and paid the ultimate price of chasing their dreams. Denali is beautiful, but never gentle. The 1967 disaster stands as a chilling testament to both human determination and the untamable wild nature. It is a story of courage and the raw, humbling power of nature. If you found this story moving, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more stories from the world's highest and deadliest mountains.